One by drivetrains, where simplicity meets functionality, but one problem: they're expensive. Until now. So let's see if this new generation of value one by drivetrains are worth it. Hey everyone, Phil from Bikes Online here, and welcome to the Worth It series, where I check out and review different products and let you know if they're worth it. On this episode, we're checking out some mountain bike one by drivetrains, in particular the Microshift Advent 9 as well as the Advent X. As of this year, a lot of our bikes are actually coming with this drivetrain, and that's for a good reason. One by drivetrains are stepping it up a notch this year, delivering high quality drivetrains at a more affordable price. And this is making a lot of entry-level mountain bikes as well as gravel riders very happy, as this wasn't achievable before. And it's the main reason I got my maroon Bobcat Trail 4. Compared to last year, it's now got a Microshift Advent 9 drivetrain, and that was the real selling point for me. But let's dig a little bit deeper and compare it to some more expensive one by drivetrains on the market and really see if it's worth it. So first off, if you're new to mountain biking, you might be asking yourself, what's a one by drivetrain? Well, it's pretty self-explanatory. You've got one ring at the front instead of that 2 or 3 that you normally might be used to, and a wider range cassette on the rear. Having that wider cassette on the rear makes up for losing those 2 or maybe 3 chain rings up the front. And while a 2 by or 3 by drivetrain will still have a wider range of gears, which is great for something like touring, some road riding, as well as gravel riding as well in some circumstances, the simplicity of a 1 by drivetrain for mountain biking as well as some gravel riders is definitely appreciated. And in these circumstances, 1 by drivetrains are preferred for their simplicity as well as ease of maintenance and adjustment. And one thing you will notice on a mountain bike is that chain retention is drastically improved. You won't notice that chain slapping around, you won't be dropping chains, and this is thanks to the clutch mechanism on the rear derailleur, as well as the tooth profile on that front chainring. So it's got what's called a narrow wide profile, so there's a wider part, and then there's a narrow part on the next tooth. Now let's talk a little bit more about the Microshift range and how it stacks up compared to the main competitors in Shimano as well as SRAM. So SRAM and Shimano have been dominating the one by drivetrain market for a few years now, but Microshift has really been stepping up their game, especially in the last 2 years. So instead of increasing the amount of gears like SRAM and Shimano done with their new 12-speed drivetrains, Microshift has opted to keep it a bit more simple and traditional. So they've got 8, 9 and 10-speed options. So they've got the Acolyte 8-speed, which comes with a clutch, the Advent 9 that also comes with a clutch, as well as the Advent X that also comes with a clutch. So all full dedicated one by drivetrains specifically made for going off-road. And these 8, 9 and 10 speed one by drivetrains by Microshift have been really fulfilling the wishes of a lot of riders on the market. So the great thing about these 8, 9 and 10 speed drivetrains is there's no proprietary stuff. It's going to fit on your classic Shimano HD driver body, which can't be said about the new Shimano stuff as well as their SRAM stuff. So they use the SRAM XD driver or the Shimano Microspline. And another great thing, 8, 9 and 10 speed chains, they're super durable and easy to find too. And because there's 8, 9 and 10 speeds instead of 12, the weight's going to be a little bit lighter as well. But enough with all that specs and that kind of stuff. Let's check out what I thought on my first ride on the Microshift Advent 9 on my maroon Bobcat Trail.
So yeah, and the gear range is decent as well. So it's that 9-speed 11 to 46, so decent enough range. Only on the steeper stuff that you'll probably notice not having the extra range compared to like an Eagle, but on this kind of bike, especially how efficient hardtails are, you're not really going to notice it.
So as you can see, I was pretty impressed. The shifting was clean without, I was happy with the range, the chain retention was good, nothing really to question there. After a few more rides, it was only on the steepest of fire road climbs that I did wish that I had a little bit more in the gear range, and also those prayers probably could be answered by using the Advent X drivetrain, which has an 11 to 48 tooth range instead of the 11 to 46, which I had on my maroon Bobcat Trail. But honestly, that's really nitpicking. I've been really happy with the drivetrain on my kind of 6 months of riding it. Shifting clean, as I said, didn't need to make any adjustments really at all. Chain retention good, shifting's clean. It's not gonna be as clean as say more expensive drivetrains, which are gonna shift a little bit better under load, but I was really impressed. So that's the Advent 9 covered, but what about the Advent X? Well, that's on my fiance's commuter bike. It's actually a maroon Kentfield, so let's check in with her with what she thought.
Ham. What did you think about the drivetrain on your bike?
That's the thing that moves the wheel.
And changes the gears.
Yeah, it moves the wheel.
Thanks.
And no arguments there. Now let's really dig in with some comparisons and see if the Microshift Advent range is truly worth it against some of its competitors. So I used the Shimano SLX 12-speed drivetrain on my Polygon Siskiyou T8 for around the past year. And for most, the Shimano SLX range is considered to really be that sweet spot in the Shimano range when you're getting performance to value. So I think it's a worthy comparison going for something that's really considered performance for value, something that's more considered value oriented. So let's see how they shape up. So let's start with round one, and that's weight. So the Shimano SLX 12-speed drivetrain, the cassette weighs 527 grams, which is actually pretty good considering it's a 12-speed drivetrain. But on the Microshift Advent X, you're looking at 424 grams, and that's in the alloy spided version. There's also some steel versions that weigh around about 150 grams heavier, so that is something to consider. But in the alloy version, it's a fair bit lighter than the Shimano. But not to be too mean to the Shimano, you will notice that a lot of the bikes spec'd with Microshift for this year from factory, they might come with a Sunrace cassette or the steel version of the Microshift. But if we're comparing apples to apples in terms of just the alloy Advent X as well as the Shimano SLX, we're going to go with the Advent X on weight here. And the alloy spided Advent 9 comes in at around about 440 grams. So less gears equals less weight, who would have thought? But that is at a sacrifice for the gear range. So Shimano, you've got 10 to 51 tooth cassette. On the Advent X, you've got that 11 to 48. And then on the Microshift Advent 9, you've got either the 11 to 42 or the 11 to 46. So in terms of gear range, we're giving round 2 to Shimano. Well, what about price? So we're going to have to go back to Microshift here, and they win on terms of price. We knew they were going to be great value. So for the Advent X drivetrain, including everything but the cranks, you're looking at around about 280 Australian dollars. And that's 250 for the Advent 9. And then in the Shimano, you're looking at around about 350 for an SLX group set. But then in terms of shifting performance, I'm going to have to give this one to Shimano. So we're back to 2-all. And the main reason for this, the Shimano stuff, it just shifts really cleanly and a little bit better under load. And that's mainly thanks to their new Hyperglide Plus technology. But the Microshift Advent does the job well. If you want it to shift, it'll shift, and it'll shift pretty cleanly. So that's all I can really ask for out of a great value drivetrain. And then in terms of chain retention, pretty similar there. Nothing really to note. Both have pretty good chain retention. So again, we're even on all accounts there, but because the Microshift Advent 9 comes in at a cheaper price, so I'm gonna have to give the win to Microshift. I just think it's a great value option and it offers pretty much everything that the more expensive drivetrains do these days, except for that really crisp shifting as well as that ultra lightweight on the very, very high-end stuff, which you are getting, but again, not really that different. But I know a lot of you guys are gonna say, Phil, what about those 10 and 11 speed Shimano drivetrains? Yes, the 10 and 11 speed Dior drivetrains are really good too. And they offer pretty much everything that the Microshift Advent drivetrains offer. But it seems like a lot more OEM companies are going with the Microshift because it is just that little bit more affordable, especially at the factory level. But at the end of the day, all these great value one-buy drivetrains offer the same thing, and that's great range, great value, good performance at a reasonable price. And for me, that's great to hear because the people that are entering the sport, you really want them to have a great experience. And if they jump on a mountain bike and it's got a one-buy drivetrain, they're gonna fall in love with the sport a lot more easier than they do on a traditional drivetrain where you drop in chains and it's hard and confusing to shift. So thumbs up all round. So if you're looking at a new mountain bike, gravel bike, commuter, anything like that, and it's got a Microshift drivetrain, you should be pretty stoked. I probably wouldn't see the point in going up to the next model up if there's no real differences in spec on the bike except for the drivetrain, but if there's something like better suspension, brakes and that kind of stuff like that, you might look to upgrade. But if you're just basing things on drivetrain, I think the Microshift's a great option and you should go for it. Or if you're looking to upgrade your drivetrain to a one-buy, I think it's one of the best options on the market as well. But if you want to check out more about the Microshift range, the Marin Bobcat Trail 8 or the Marin Kentfield that I've got there, I'll leave a link to our website where you can buy all those things as well. And as always guys, thanks for watching. See ya.